Welcome, Your Excellency. Let me, on behalf of the management and staff of the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation, give you a warm welcome and Happy New Year, even if slightly delayed. For some time now, GBC has been looking forward to your visits. We planned this a couple of months ago, but some exigencies of the time made it impossible, so we had to come. Now, since then, there has been an expectant move in GBC for your presence. So extremely elated when it emerged that that visit will come off today among visits to other places. So we thought it wise that having visited us, it is important to start with a meeting with the management and key decision makers in GBC so that you learn at first hand what the issues are before we then step out to inspect some key installations here. This is not an entirely new building for you. Having done your national service here, so you are quite familiar with the terrain. But a lot has changed since your more youthful days in GBC. And so they will be more than happy to brief you on developments so far. Whatever challenges we made, which some of which is brought to our attention already as government, and I've had discussions with you on that. And I'm sure that there are some of the matters that you will be in a position to respond to in terms of what the government position is and what exactly the plans are to resuscitate GBC and position it as, or better still, reinforce their mandate as a leading broadcasting house in Ghana. Their competitors are here in their numbers, but it will not stop us from having frank discussions about what needs to be done. So I welcome you once again. Professor Amin Alhassan is the Director General of GBC. He will introduce the members of his management and other staff, after which he will make some remarks, and then the floor will be handed over to you. Thank you very much, Your Excellency.
Your Excellency, on behalf of the board of GBC and the management and the staff of GBC, I welcome you to the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation. With me to do the honors is my Deputy Director General, Engineer Augustus Yamson, my Director of Human Resource, Mr. John Kowasari, my Director of Marketing, George Lomote, my Director of Television, Akushika Akwe, my Director of Corporate Affairs, Mamle Asare. I have my Director of Radio, Mr. Japon, my Director of Technical Production, Ben Square, my Director of Finance, Emmanuel Ashite, my Director of Engineering, Eric Odonko, and last but not the least, my Director of Legal, Lisa Aqua. With this delegation on my side, we act on behalf of the board to welcome you to GBC and to sincerely state that this visit of yours is historic. And when we check the records, we found out that apart from the CPP government, no sitting president has ever taken the time to meet the management of GBC in this form. So we take that seriously and we are very honored. And we take that as a sign for us to be motivated to work harder and make sure that we offer the necessary support to the government's research agenda. Already, every quarter, we submit our reports to the Office of Government Machinery detailing how we support government agenda on national development. We do that because it's part of the mandate of the national broadcaster to lead in the dissemination of information about government policies. Now, we do this over a network of 17 FM stations. It should be 18 if Boko is brought back to life. The FM station in Boko is off. If we bring it back to life, it will be 18 FM stations. And through this network of 18 FM stations, Your Excellency, we broadcast in 27 Ghanaian languages. That is about half of Ghanaian languages spoken in Ghana. Our mandate requires that we broadcast in as many Ghanaian languages as possible. So whereas the public tends to assess our performance based on television, we want to state it clear that radio and rural broadcasting, national reach, to reflect the diversity of the diverse character of the country is our mandate, and we take that seriously. On television, we operate 7 TV channels, and with that, we are able to ensure that we cover politics, the arts, local traditions, and everything we can think about as part of our mandate. On the digital platforms, we cover all major platforms that we have, and we make sure that our content gets far and wide. Your Excellency, this is the reason why I want to use the opportunity to emphasize that the idea of TV license was brought in not because the audience watched TV, but to generate revenue for the public service broadcaster to expand and reach non-profitable areas. Otherwise, media access will be determined by advertising market. TV license fee was started by the British to ensure that whether you watch TV or not, it is your contribution towards the public service fund for them to execute. So today, if you were to give me 1 million cedis of TV license, I'm very sure about 60% will go into radio, not television. And that radio is to ensure that remote access areas, there's radio, and they will carry what happens in Parliament today. They will carry what happens from the presidency. They will inform Ghanaians about culture, health, education, and all that. That is why we want to say that your visit gives us the opportunity to appeal that we need to have a new conversation about how to reposition TV licenses. Some European countries have since dropped the name TV licenses, and they have repositioned it as public media levy, because it is not about TV. Now, the BBC that we are so happy to note as a model example of global excellence in public service broadcasting, last year, 75% of their budget was funded from TV licenses. And last year, 1% of our budget was funded from TV licenses. If you compare, you can tell why we are where we are. Your Excellency, we want to request humbly that in the discussion about TV licenses, the name we should look at the name. It's not about TV. It's not about you watching TV. It's about raising funds to ensure public service broadcasting. Is that like how we pay street light levy on our electricity bill, even though most of us don't have street lights in our neighborhood? So we also want to bring to your attention that when the new regions were created, we submitted requests to government that the law requires that we establish presence in every region. And so in the new regions, we have language groups which are not served by GBC. It's an outright discrimination. It's unacceptable, but we don't have the capacity to establish presence in the newly created region, the 6 of them. So we want to bring it to your attention that it's necessary that GBC is given the capacity to go out into these unserved areas. The third issue I want to bring, and that is probably the one that gives us a lot of sleepless nights, Your Excellency, is the issue of legacy debt from ECG and NEDCO. First of all, currently we have been forced to pay it, but I want to make it clear that those debts were not generated by GBC alone. In the past, when there were no difference between government agencies, the military, the police, national security all positioned their equipment on GBC locations, and were drawing power from the same source as GBs. So when it came to a time to install meters, these meters were installed in the name of GBC, and they started accumulating debt with GBC. So when we brought it to their attention, these state agencies simply disconnected and found alternative source. But they had accumulated a few years of debt for GBC to pay. We've currently been paying it this year. We've paid 5 million of it. Currently, we have outstanding of 13.6 million cedis. We are simply requesting and appealing that the government takes care of the legacy debt, because we are currently dealing with our current bill. We make sure that we take care of our bill, but the legacy debt is drawing us back. Now, our prayer is that if that is taken care of, it will allow GBC to expedite its action on green energy. With collaboration with the BBC, we currently have solar systems at Ajankote transmission site, and we depend 30% on solar and 70% on national grid. At Takoradi, we have also installed solar, and we are currently spending 50% on solar, 50% on national grid. And if the responsibility of the legacy debt is taken over us, we sincerely believe that we can speed up the process of using IGF to do solar, to reduce our dependence on this. And the next issue that I quickly want to bring up is that under the instruction of the board, management is concluding a 5-year strategic plan. And in this plan, there's a very bold proposal, and that will be coming to your attention through the Minister, Honorable Felix Kwachu. And it's very straightforward. We think that we must think outside the box. We must leverage on the assets of GBC to raise the needed funds to reposition GBC with the necessary infrastructure. Especially, we are currently located in this type of campus structure. Even the BBC that we all talk about is located in one building. We think GBC we should find ourselves in a tower block, and that transformation is contained in the strategic plan. We've explained the details and how it can be done. It is doable, and we think that when it comes to, we will pray a favorable consideration from Cabinet. And we think that the resources we currently sit on, the asset we have, we can leverage that to transform GBC without necessarily asking government to bring money and put into GBC. That plan, Your Excellency, will be on your desk very soon, I believe, because the board has given January to close the work on it and submit it for their approval so that we can forward it to the Honorable Minister. And I think that with this, I can also assure you that the current structure of GBC is not fit for purpose. The organogram is 30 years old. The scheme of service is also 30 years old. We have worked on the organogram. We've got the Public Service Commission to approve the new organogram. And we've also, Your Excellency, worked on the draft scheme of service. We've submitted it to the Public Service Commission for approval. When it's approved, a lot of changes will happen in GBC. Currently, we have structures that were put in place when GBC was the only media house and when it was analog. With the digital setup and with the competition that we have, we need to restructure GBC to respond to the challenges, the demands, and the dictates of the digital media economy. And on that note, Your Excellency, I welcome you to GBC. I welcome you to GBC with excitement, I must say.
Yeah, thank you very much, Prof, for that very comprehensive brief on the current status of the public broadcaster. I am quite familiar with GBC. I first walked through the gates of GBC in 1986 as a young intern. I was doing my postgraduate in communication studies at the University of Ghana, and I was brought here for internship. And so at the time when Gifty Afeni-Dazi and all of them, you know, were the news editors and all that, this is where I cut my teeth on early journalism. And so, of course, GBC occupies a sensitive spot in my heart. Aside from that, I was the supervising minister for several years, first as deputy minister of communications, then as minister of communications. And so Akushika Akwe and all of them, you know, are people that I'm very familiar with. And so, I mean, definitely, as president, the issue of public media has been occupying our attention, and Minister Ofosu-Kwakye has brought the issue of the state of the public media to Cabinet a few times. And so that is what triggered my decision to pay a visit to see for myself, you know, what the status is with the public media. And so we started with GBC. We're going to go to Graphic Corporation and the other public media institutions. But certainly, GBC has served Ghana well, and you yourself have described it in terms of the multiplicity of languages that it uses in its broadcast. It makes it able to reach every nook and cranny of this country in language that our people understand. And of course, the kind of content you carry is not content that brings advertising and money. You are talking to farmers about what kinds of seeds to use, when they should plant. I mean, it's not the kind of content that, people would necessarily throw their money at, like if it was beauty competitions and things like that. But somebody must do that, public education. And so we appreciate the work GBC does. And we believe that we must discuss a new funding model to see how we can make you better able to discharge the mandates that you have. You've mentioned several things, and we're waiting to receive your proposals. I believe that you have the capacity and the assets to be able to modernize GBC. I mean, you sit on prime property in this city, and I believe that we can leverage some of those assets to create a more modern digital GBC that is more fit for purpose than in the past. We are reviewing the Constitution. The Constitutional Review Committee presented their report to me, and it is my hope that Chapter 12, that has served us well since 1992, we look at it again and see how we can tweak it in order that, the media, the chapter on the media creates a better environment, especially for public media to be able to do its work. We'll continue to work with the National Media Commission in respect of the public media. And I think that in all these proposals will bring the Media Commission on board so that all of us are on the same wavelength. There are few suggestions we have with regards to the so-called TV license. And I think that our thinking is going in the same direction to amend that law to make it a public media levy of some sort. And we're going to change the range of that levy so that it's better able to mobilize funding in order to be able to subsidize the work of the public media. And so when we are ready, it will be discussed in Cabinet, but we'll discuss with you what our thinking is before we finally go to Parliament and amend the law. I'm sure that with some of the suggestions we've got, it will be able to raise the amount of funding that it brings in and make you better able to do your work. Your minister brought the issue of the legacy debts to us. And so what I've asked him to do is just to make sure that you keep up with the current bill. We're going to ring fence the legacy debt, and then we're bringing it to the attention of the Chief of Staff to find the funding to be able to defray the legacy debt so that it does not continue to be a charge on you. I'm happy you've started introducing solar. It will help to bring down your power factor and make you pay less so that you can use the extra money to do other things that are important to keep your organization afloat. With regards to the organogram, we'll wait to see what the suggestions are. And if you have an organogram in terms of management that is more than 60 years old, then I think that it's time to take a look at it. And so we'll be happy to see what your proposals are so that we can see what to do about it. And so with those few words, I just say I'm happy to see you. I'm happy to see you smiling. You've been under quite some pressure of late. But thank you very much. I know you guys are working under very trying conditions, but we want to appreciate you for what you've done. So I wish you a happy New Year.
Please subscribe, like, and share.